What's going on, everybody? This is Kenny Graham back at y'all, man, with another episode of Conversations with Kenny. First off, man, thank y'all so much just for all the love that you all showed throughout the first episode. I read the comments and I look at all the responses and things like that, and it's obvious that you all were blessed by it, and it's obvious that this is something that I need to continue to do. I do know that when it was on my heart to do, I was actually a little nervous, right? Because I hadn't spoken to people in some years. I hadn't done this in a very long time, right? And so I was a little nervous about it. But when it's in your heart to do it, you gotta walk in that thing. You gotta be obedient, right? And I believe this is me being obedient because it's obvious from you all's response that this has been an amazing podcast. It's continuing to be an amazing podcast so far. And so thank y'all so much, man. Again, we wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't be doing this without y'all, right? I wouldn't be doing this without you all's support. And so again, I appreciate y'all's support. Thank y'all so much again. So for this episode, man, I just want to go ahead and just jump right into it, man. So, last week or a couple weeks ago, we talked about beginning again. And the whole premise behind that was for us to begin again in certain areas of our lives. So there's this whole thing of starting over, doing things new, doing things different, right? And as I shared in the previous episode, that there are some things that we aren't necessarily supposed to separate from, but we're just supposed to do that thing differently, right? So basically that was what the first episode was. And so if you haven't listened to the first episode, I encourage you to go on YouTube right now. The full episode is there. And just tune in, man, and share and just let us know what you think. But that episode in particular was very powerful, and I can definitely see that you all, just as I did, needed it. And I'm just glad that God speaks in perfect timing, man. When we don't feel sometimes that he's doing things when we want him to do it. It's always on time, right? And so I just have to always remind myself, and I want to encourage you to remind yourself as well, that God always does things in the right time and in perfect timing, man. And it may not be on the timing that you think it should go, but it's always on the timing that he believes should go. And so for this episode, man, I want to really get us to embrace and understand the power of ownership, right? The power of individual choice, individual decisions, right? And the first three words that comes up for me when I think about this is give yourself permission. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by give yourself permission? Like, what does that even look like? Like, some of you may have never even heard that before. So what does that look like to give yourself permission, right? So when I look at giving yourself permission, I believe it's really giving yourself permission to do the thing that you've been called to do. And to give yourself permission to put in place some of the things that you've been wanting to put in place that you may have been holding on to, and that you may have been kind of pulling away from, or kind of putting to the side for a minute, right? But what I want to share is this is the time. This is really the time to give yourself permission to do that thing right now. This is the time for you not to hold back any longer. This is the time for you to be the very best that you can be just within this year, man. And I know it's been a lot going on in 2025, but the one thing that 2025 cannot control is you and your own personal development, and you and your own personal growth, and your individual decision to do something, right? And so I just want to encourage you today. You may have never heard this before. For some of you, give yourself permission. Like, we get so caught up in worried about what other people think, right? And I know for me, honestly, that was something that I had to work on myself, right? And honestly, it wasn't until really 2-3 years ago to where I really was on that journey of, okay, I'm gonna stop caring about what people think. I'm going to make decisions that are best for me, even if it means not doing it for someone else, or making it best for me, even though I know that somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to be sacrificed, and not in the way that you think, but in the sense that I got to take care of me. I have to work on me. I have to continue to develop me, because if I don't, what can I give you? Like, why would we be on this podcast right now if I'm not developing myself, right? And so that's really important for me, and it's really important for me in every area of my life to give myself permission to be the best in those things. And I think honestly, we're at an age now where we're at a point now where, you see all this stuff on social media, people, are expressing their voices, right? You see all these voices that are coming out that haven't been out, in a long time, or we haven't even seen them. But because we're in a space where people are sharing their truth, and giving their truth, it's more freeing to be in this point where we're giving ourselves permission to do the things that we're wanting to do. And so for some of you, it may be giving yourself permission to have that conversation. For some of you, it may be giving yourself permission to start that 21-day health plan, right? For some of you, it may be giving yourself permission to forgive that person. It may be to give yourself permission to actually start that business, to actually start working in that position, right? To really start doing the things that it's been in your heart to do, right? The things that you've been pushing off, right? Because a lot of us, like, we become victims of that, pushing things off. And I know I was one of them, right? And it wasn't until I began to proactively give myself permission and decide that I'm going to live life on my own terms. I'm going to live life based on, what I want it to be, and not necessarily be determined and dictated by someone else. And so I just encourage you to give yourself permission. And so when we look at this, what are some of the things that hold us back from giving ourselves permission? For a lot of people, what I've noticed in this time is fear, right? And fear is very real. And I don't want to minimize or denounce the fear, because that fear is very real. But we still have an opportunity to make decisions even in the midst of that fear. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be scared. Like, I'm not in the business of telling people that they shouldn't be afraid, that they shouldn't be scared, or anything like that, because there are things that are going on in our world and in our society that makes it hard to not be scared, that makes it hard to not be afraid. There's so much going on, and it's a reality for us to be afraid. It's a reality for us to be fearful. But what we have to do in the midst of the fear is make a decision, right? Is make that decision. Last episode, I talked about me and my father, right? I talked about, how when I was reading him that letter, that at one point my hand was shaking, because, like, one, not only was I nervous about this, but this was the first time that I ever just really expressed to him how I felt, for us to get to the other side of it, to where now we are like this. But in that process, I had to give myself permission, because it wasn't about him. I need to let y'all breathe on that. It wasn't about him. It was about me and my own personal freedom. And so I needed to give myself permission to be free. I needed to give myself permission to be out of bondage. I needed to give myself permission to actually get on the other side of that, and not be resentful, and not, have this pain, and not have this hurt to where it's causing me to not even want to talk to my dad. Like, I didn't want to get to that point. So I gave myself permission that even in the midst of how I was feeling, that I was going to get to the other side of it. But in order for me to have gotten to the other side of it, I needed to give myself permission to do that, right? And that came with writing that letter. That came with reading it, right? That came with, me making the phone calls, because it was me who ultimately wanted to be free. And a lot of us, what we do is we are guided and ruled by other people, and we're not necessarily experiencing the freedom that we want to experience in our own lives, right? Because we're so moved by how other people feel and what other people think, right? And at the end of the day, like, it's it's not gonna be a whole lot with that, right? Unless you make it that way. You feel what I'm saying? And so I just need you to give yourself permission, right? I just need you to give yourself permission to be everything that you have been called to be. You know what it is. Like, you know that thing that's in your heart. I need you to give yourself permission to actually do it. Because honestly, bruh, honestly, sis, ain't nobody gonna do it for you. No one is going to decide to forgive that person for you. No one is going to decide to go on that health plan for you. No one else is going to decide to, you know, go talk to that person, or, you know, go talk to that business owner, or go have that meeting. No one is going to do that for you. And so if you want it, I need you to give yourself permission. Bump everybody else giving you permission, because we've been wired to want to get permission from other people. And unless we got permission from other people or get permission from other people, that's when we move. But I'm challenging you today to give yourself permission. Look yourself in the mirror and say, this is what I want, and then go after that thing, right? And, you know, on my journey, honestly, because I would be remiss if I didn't share this with you, right? Because, you know, giving yourself permission is not necessarily the easiest thing, especially when you've come up in a place where everything, all of your life was guided by someone else, or guided by someone else's playbook, or someone else's thought and perspective on what you should be, on how you should live, right? It can be hard. And today, I just want you to just make the decision. I just want us to make the decision to give yourself permission to do it, whatever it is. Quit being guided by other people. Quit being, you know, led by other people. This is your life. This is your life at the end of the day, and can't nobody live it for you. And so you have to live the life based on you making permission, or giving yourself permission for yourself to do the thing that you know it's in your heart to do. And so I would be remiss just share, like, you know, this ain't been the easiest journey, and there are 4 things that I've recognized when it comes to giving yourself permission. And the one thing that is very obvious when it comes to giving yourself permission is that's what it is. It's giving yourself. Giving yourself. And so, and there are a lot of you watching, man, and you were in a position where I was, to where you extend yourself so much to other people. Like, you do so much for other people that you neglect yourself, and that you forget about you. And I'm encouraging you to not forget about you, because again, you can't give what you don't have. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so if I'm not giving myself permission to be everything that I'm supposed to be, and to develop and to grow into the man that I'm supposed to be, then how can I give into you? How can I pour into you if I don't have anything to pour, right? If I don't have anything within me to pour. So I got to start with pouring in myself, right? I got to start with focusing on me and giving myself permission, because it's about self. Yourself, giving yourself permission, right? And so just as I did, I want you to do the same thing, right? I want you to look in the mirror like this is me, and this is my life, right? And I know that there are people who are counting on me and all of those things, but how can I come through for other people if I can't even come through for myself? How can we do for other people if we're not doing for self? I can't pour from a place where it's empty. Like, I gotta be full, because if I'm not full, you're not gonna get full. If I'm not helped, you're not gonna get helped. It's almost like that analogy, that plain analogy of put the face mask on you first, and then someone else. Because how in the world can you be of help to anyone else if you're not of help to you? And so, number 1, giving yourself permission is about yourself, right? Giving yourself permission. The second piece is giving yourself permission comes with a decision. And it's a decision that you have to individually make. Like, it can't be a thing where you are like, you know, this person said this person thinks that. Like, what decision are you going to make for your life? Is the thing that other people are saying about you, or is that with what they're saying about you working for you? Because if it's not, I need you to make an adjustment. If it's not, we gotta make some adjustments. Like, we gotta do something different, right? And part of that is making a decision for yourself. And so giving yourself permission, one is about self. And two, giving yourself permission comes with a decision. And number three, giving yourself permission comes with a cost. Like it is going to be a cost to giving yourself permission. Like I said earlier, it's going to get to a point to where when you decide to choose for self, someone else is going to be affected. Someone else is going to be or feel some kind of way about it, however they feel, right? But again, how can you give into other people's if you're not giving it to yourself? So you have to give yourself permission to fill you up. Give yourself permission to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost is. And that cost could be a friend. That cost could be, not having that business deal. That cost could be, you get to a point out to where you wanted to talk to that person, but they're not wanting to talk to you, and that relationship could just be over, right? Like that, like giving yourself permission comes with a cost. And the cost, because it comes with a cost, is not going to be easy to do it. Because again, we've been wired so much to get permission from other people that we don't give ourselves permission. And so it's going to come with some sort of cost. It's going to come a cost of, people. It's going to come a cost of things. It's going to come a cost of opportunities when you give yourself permission. Because there's some people that just won't align with you unless you do that, right? And that just aren't aligned with you, period, because it's not a part of where you're supposed to be going in your life. So giving yourself permission comes with a cost. And lastly, giving yourself permission is the gateway to your individual greatness. It's the gateway. How can you be great if you don't give yourself permission to be great? How can you get to the other side and really live and be everything that you call to be if you're not giving yourself permission to? God gave it to you. He already birthed it in you. So now it's time for you to birth that out. It's time for you to bring that thing out. It's almost like, a pregnancy. They go through a process before that baby comes out. But at some point, that baby got to come out. At some point, we have to do something. At some point, we have to make a move and to finally give ourselves permission to be able to walk into our greatness, whatever that greatness is. And everybody's greatness looks different, but we all are designed to be great. We all are designed for greatness, but you got to give yourself permission to walk in that thing, right? So those are just the four things that I recognize. Number one, giving yourself permission is about yourself. Two, giving yourself permission is a decision. Number three, giving yourself permission comes with a cost. And then number four, giving yourself permission is the gateway to individual greatness. And so I believe in you. I trust in you, and I know that you can do it, man. I know that we all can do this thing. We're all walking through this thing called life together. Like none of us are in this thing alone. And so I'm here with you, walking this thing through with you, and know that, this thing ain't always going to be perfect, right? And even on this process of giving yourself permission, it's not going to be perfect. It's a daily practice. It's a daily practice to make decisions for yourself. It's a daily practice. And it's a practice that we have to continuously do throughout the rest of our lives, because that's the only way we're going to get to the other side of where we're going to try to get to and to become everything that we're supposed to become, is giving yourself permission. So in closing of this podcast, man, I just want to encourage us, man, to just really look at ourselves, right? This is the point when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, like, and really be honest with yourself in the areas of your life where you have not given yourself permission. Because I'm a firm believer that if we're going to solve a problem, we have to know that there is one. If we're going to deal with an issue, we have to know that there is an issue, right? And part of that could be you looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, like these are the areas of my life where I'm not giving myself permission. And here's what's happening and here's why. And really get honest about that. Because what I do appreciate about therapy is this thing of being honest and giving absolute truth. Like, and I think we need to get to a point when it comes to this aspect of giving ourselves permission to really come and hone down to the truth of where we are and where we need to be, because that's the only way we're going to do it. And so in closing, man, I just encourage you to just, and I encourage all of us to just look in the mirror every single day when, when it comes to this process and making a decision for yourself every single day that you're going to be everything that you call to be, that you're going to do what has been set out to do in your heart to do. All right. So again, this has been another edition, another episode of Conversations with Kenny podcast, man. Super, super stoked, man, just to continue this. Again, I appreciate all the love that y'all been giving, man. And it's obvious, again, that y'all are really feeling this. And so I'm going to continue to do this, man. Just all based on obedience. And, this is what happens when you are obedient, right? Things come to fruition when you are obedient. And so just as I was obedient and giving myself permission to start this podcast, I want you to be obedient and give yourself permission to begin your journey. And whatever that journey is, give yourself permission. All right? All right, so let's get it, y'all. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube channel. The podcast is growing. The subscribers are growing. And so if you haven't already, I would love your support by subscribing to the podcast. Again, thank you so much. And thank all of y'all for continuing to join me every single time we do this, man. And again, we're going to have some folks on sharing their stories, right? But just at the beginning of it, I want to just really pour my heart out. I want y'all to really understand like what is kind of going on with me with this podcast before we kind of put other people on and interview them. And so we're going to have all those things, right? But I just want to kind of lay the groundwork for us as we go throughout this piece. But I love y'all, man. Again, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. Like, don't wait for anyone else to do it. Give yourself permission, all right? I love y'all, man. Y'all have a blessed week, and we keep going, all right? Peace.